This month I'm going to be working on improving my cross. So I'm just looking at the cross at the minute. I'm not looking at X cross. I'm not looking at planning my first pair or anything like that. I'm only looking at cross. Main reason for that is cross is something I've ignored completely since since I was about getting 1 minute solves. I really never paid attention to it. I just didn't like it, and so it's been largely neglected. And actually, I think it is because of that. It's a pretty big hindrance to me being able to solve well. So as I said, I'm going to be looking at solving the cross with optimal moves. And you might notice here that I'm not using an inspection time right now. That's something I'm going to look at integrating later on, but for now, for the first half of the year, I'm looking at really giving myself as much time as possible to think through things, and I'm hoping that that's going to help me see things quicker by the second half of the year when I want to start speeding things up. So first thing I did here was I wanted to collect some data to find out how quick I can actually solve the cross. So I did this with inspection and without inspection just to compare them. And with inspection, I'm looking at about 1.78 was my average of 100. So if I'm wanting to become sub 12 average, usually people say about 10% of your solve should be on the cross. That would mean reducing it down to 1.2 seconds. Seems without inspection that might be quite doable. Annoyingly though, what ended up happening with inspection, things got much worse. I ended up, I forgot the exact number, I think it was 2.8 seconds as my average of 100 for solving the cross with inspection. A lot of this seemed to be, I could see that some color neutral crosses were going to be better, but I just didn't have time to work them out. And a lot of the time I ended up using cube rotations as well, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But it definitely seems like I can solve the cross quickly, just not under pressure. All right, so I just wanted to share the biggest thing that's helped me so far with solving the cross, which is to avoid any cube rotations at all. That might seem really obvious to a lot of you, but that is something that I have pretty much ignored up until very recently. And I'm pretty sure before Christmas, when I just managed to get my averages under 15 seconds, I'm pretty sure it was simply because of that alone. So if we take this example here, I'm going to solve the yellow cross. I've got blue on the bottom, I've got these two on the top, and this one flipped on the bottom. Now, normally, the way I would have solved this, I would have been quite comfortable solving the green, the orange, then rotating to make it easier to just think about what I was doing to solve the rest. But actually, after watching, I think it was one of J Perm's videos where he said there should always be a better way to solve. If we look at this same example, if I were to solve the orange side first, down into the bottom already next to the blue, then I can solve the green. And then the only thing that's really different is now I have to use D and B moves to solve this final pair. And that lets me do it without cube rotations. For me, because I'm still not that advanced in terms of planning my next pair. Like you can see this pair is set up quite nicely, but I'll get to that in a minute. If I'm doing a cube rotation, one of the things that's going to have to happen if I want to plan my next pair, well, first of all, if I'm hoping that I'm going to put something in the back slot, I'm going to need to be thinking, all right, well, which way am I rotating? What is going to be the new back slot? If I'm not doing a rotation, I know that green's the back slot the whole time. So actually, this pair is quite nice for that. And what it actually did was, as well as speeding up my cross a little bit, so even though those moves were a bit awkward, they're probably not that much slower with practice than doing a rotation. It allowed me a lot more look-ahead time for my first pair. And so in this example, I might be able to see quicker. I probably am not at this point that I would have noticed that pair on inspection, but if I'm not rotating the cube, then I'm hoping I should be able to get the cross planned. And actually, if I notice that this L2 happens right at the start, that already makes that pair, which is great because actually the rest of it doesn't break it. But even if I don't see it, I still have a lot easier of a time when I've got the whole cube to look at, and I'm not having to reorient everything. I'm not having to imagine everything from a different angle. And that particular example was quite lucky just because that L2 does actually make a pair, which isn't always going to be the case. But what's also an advantage is if I do it that way, the whole time I'm looking at the rest of the cube, whereas if I do it the other way, either I've got to plan the first pair in advance, factoring in a cube rotation, which is definitely going to take me a lot longer anyway, but if not, I don't have all the moves where I can look at the cube in the same angle. Actually, I have to do these first, and then I've only got this amount of time to figure out where my first pair is. And unfortunately in this example as well, that is probably the first one that I would see, which is going to involve looking to the back, and it's going to involve a hell of a lot of moves. So hopefully throughout the year maybe that'll get a bit quicker as well. A couple other thoughts that I have on solving the cross. I know in a lot of tutorials I've watched, people often talk through the notation when they're talking about their cross and say that, hey, it's good to be able to know the notation or know the moves in order that you're going to use when you're doing the cross, because that will help you later on plan your first pair. I don't do that, so maybe I'm going to have a go at that. I just sort of see it as down, left, right. Literally, I can see it and I can tell the moves in my head, but I couldn't tell you what moves those are, and I think that makes it quite difficult for me to plan in order for anything beyond that. So not much to say there. That was my plan for the month. Let me know if you have any thoughts, any hints, tips that you've picked up from cross solving that I might have missed. I'll have another video at the end of the month to let you know how I got on. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.